Okay, this is my 90-gallon fish only tank. I guess I haven't decided if I want to make it a fish only or maybe even make it another reef system. I'm not exactly sure, but what I really wanted to do is show how this Herbie system can work, and maybe I wouldn't even call this a Herbie. I'm sure some people would call it that. I'm just calling it a compiled effort on how to get water from point A to point B. What I did is I knew that there was concerns, and I've seen where people are running these larger 1.5 inch main lines from your pre-filter down, and I felt like that would be overkill. I'm using a quiet one, 3000, so I'm figuring I'm pushing maybe 500, maybe 600 gallons at tops through this system. This is a 1 inch line that comes down, and as you can see, it's working perfectly. One of the things that I did is had to adjust. Hopefully this will pick it up. Notice the angle of these pickups on this. I did this because as the one on the left, the overflow on the left, if it was pointed straight down, it never quite would develop siphon properly, and the other one would just continuously flow. This line here would continuously flow and create all kinds of problems. So what I did is by adjusting this one, the 1 inch line, at this angle, it now picks up siphon properly, and this one is just used as a trickle line, as emergency backup. So I know those guys, the bean animal or whatever, had that 3-way system. I think that's not necessary. Also, yes, this is one of those Aqueon Pro 3 sumps that I modified a little bit. As you can see, I used a regular intake 1 inch line as it comes into this one. This one being the 1.5 is my backup line, and it works quite well. And I'll demonstrate what happens in a power failure issue. Okay, power is shut off. As you can see, water is siphoning off there, and it will tend to drop down some. I still need to modify and make myself a little release line on my return. So as the sump's filling up, and it's getting about there now, it's where it needs to be. So water drain, sump's getting really full, but I'll make that adjustment as necessary, with putting a little hole up there on my return line. Now the cool part: fire back up, pump, and in this return line, I don't know if I can get this. I'm going to try it from this angle. I don't know if we'll be able to pick this up too well in the video. Maybe from down here. Water's filling the tank. Starts to roll in. The pickup on the left will be the one that's going to pull as the main siphon, but in the early stages, the other one's going to be doing the bulk of the work until the siphon on the left really picks up. So as that's doing its business, you can see the one on the right seems to be doing a lot, but you can see also the 1 inch line is pushing a lot of air bubbles. This lasts for about a minute, and then it settles down and becomes dead silent. And that's really what we're all after here, is to try to make these things as quiet as possible and still have a good amount of flow. So now that we've been into it for about a minute now, won't take much longer, and you'll see that the one on the left is slowing down to its trickle. Also notice I used just a regular 1-inch ball valve on this thing. Those $50 gate valves are not all that necessary. You just have to dial these things in a little bit. It takes a little bit of time, but it's not like you have to buy one of those big $50 ones. So there you are. That's dialed in. We got our little bit of a trickle, which is not a problem. That's kind of what I'm after. And this thing is set. And this is, like I said, this is pushing a quiet one at around 600 gallons an hour, which is just about adequate for what I'm trying to do. But then I decided to try something a little bit more funky and see what would happen. So I put in this 3100 Rio 3100 and decided, hey, let's see what happens when I pop that one in to see how much extra flow I can push through this thing, and see if this 1-inch line can even handle the flow. And I'm going to stop just for a second. We'll see what happens when I plug that up. Okay, I got my extra hose line here running into my 3100 Rio pump, and I'm about to plug it in. Let's watch this show. I'm going to have to open that gate valve, or that ball valve, but it's not a problem. We know we're pushing a lot of water now, so we're just going to open this thing wide open. Now, we are pushing some water. We're taking a Rio 3100 and a Quiet 3000. So I figure I'm pushing about 1,200 gallons through this little pre-filter, which isn't really that big. It's maybe 9 inches wide. And you can see that it's really sucking a lot of water right now. And with just a little tweak of an adjustment, I'll be able to make this thing go just about silent and pushing a tremendous amount of water through a 1-inch line. I know I'm a little jumpy with the camera, and if you'll excuse me, I'll have this thing dialed in here in a second for you. I opened the gate valve almost wide open, and what we're going to do is start to tweak this thing back just a little bit. We're going to see what happens here. It's going to be a little noisier just because this you just got so much more volume pushing through into these filter socks. But check this. We're pushing 30, well, let's call it 1,200 gallons, maybe more, through this. And you don't ever need anything more than that. I can't imagine you would. That's a lot of flow. And I'm sure I could even go up, if I had another pump just to put on there for kicks, it might be able to handle even more. And without much effort at all, with a 1-inch ball valve, I was able to adjust this thing down to where it's just barely trickling into the emergency line, that 1.5-inch line right there. So that stuff about having to buy those big expensive valves and stuff is maybe a little overrated, but I dialed this thing down in just a matter of seconds, and it didn't give me it's working exactly the way I want. Maybe I just got a really good ball valve. But I hope you enjoy this. I know the camera's a little jittery, and it really isn't my thing to make YouTube videos, but I just thought this was something worth showing people. Now, the trick to this is when you shut this water off, what happens? Well, let's try it and see what happens. So we're just going to kill power. Now, because I know I can't handle all that water back into my sump, I have to pull that out just a little bit here. So we're going to see if we can make this thing work as it's supposed to with 2 pumps, as if we had power failure. So now we're back. We're where we need to be. Let's fire it up again with both. Okay. So as our water rolls back in, it's filling up quick. As you can see, one on the left is going to be doing a little bit of work here for a few minutes. But you can see, even with all that flow, it handles it pretty well. So yes, I do agree with a big, huge, or 1.5 inch as your emergency line. It's definitely a nice safeguard to have for if you were to have a jam up on your main one. Do I think that if my main line was to get a snail stuck in it and it would handle it? No, I think I'd have a wet floor. But with the 600 gallons an hour, I think I could get away with it just fine. So, ignore this ugly stand that doesn't match this tank. It'll all be switched around. This tank is just, it wasn't really meant to be beautiful or anything. It's just meant to be functional and then more of an experiment. But who knows, maybe I can clean it up and put it in the house if the wife will let me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me try this way. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm Bruce Hall, and I'm just one of these guys that likes to tinker with these tanks, just like a lot of you guys. So good luck to you in your adventures. I hope this video helps.